What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Creators Cut. Today, we're taking a look at Shaffer. And if you guys are new here, my name's Kev, and I do these creator breakdowns on some of your favorite creators. So let's get into it. As always, please make sure you guys take a look at the creators I cover, watch the video first. And if you guys enjoy their stuff, please follow them and show them some love. All right. Today's video is how to fall in love with fear.
All right, so here's the deal. I have a friend that follows me everywhere, and my friend's name is Fear.
I love the text because there's like so much life to it. Usually you'll see, white text, very clean cut. This text, bright red, but it also has movement to it. Even back here has,
And
these like little jitters. But if you look closely, you could see that there's like texture. There's like some noise, and then the outline almost has like this black vignette around it.
A lot of times Fear will visit me at home, and most often she'll come in and interrupt me when I'm in the middle of
Nice, slow, low tracking in shot. It just flows so well. The composition, you can see the poles on the side, and I feel like maybe it's either a slider or a gimbal.
Often she'll come in and interrupt me when I'm in the middle of something important. And while I do consider her a friend, sometimes Fear can be
I love the composition of this shot because you can see the instruments coming into the foreground, and it's, framing his eyes like just really, really well.
a little distracting.
Even before we like really get into it, I feel like the ideation of his videos as well as the shot selection are so good. It's just so well thought out. Even doing little things like this adds a little bit more. Having this character or like these little characters, and then like how he did it, I feel like he could have masked it out. Maybe put like a fishing wire string on it to move it. It's just a cool touch to like add these little elements and characters to the video.
Fear, it's that she's persistent.
Like this. To even think of this stuff, doing the extra production value, doing the googly eyes, thinking, okay, how can I characterize this? Opening this up, you could see the smoke coming in from the right side, which could be steam or maybe done in post, and then adding this fire and like even a little bit of that frame shake to add a little bit more when it opens.
And so I'll wind up spending
Just for like a split second. So much production value.
as I get more and more into mountaineering. There's nobody near me, there never was. She keeps track of the weather.
So those shots back to back, so good. And visually, it looks scary. It's so
As
steep.
I get more and more into
This looks good, but in terms of like fear, I feel like these do a crazier job. And I think it's because of how it, the angle of it is just so crazy. What I also like about it that some people don't necessarily do is when he's doing like a journey or traveling here, he's always moving slightly from the left to the right or left to right. So even walking up here, it works well because sometimes it's jarring when you go from left to right, then you show clips of you going right to left. It just doesn't flow as well. So I like how he just places these back to back, and then even the extremely wide shot where you could see this.
She keeps track of the weather and helps me make decisions.
Man,
She reminds me to let someone
that reveal is so good. You guys probably know this. Like when you're at a place and you want to capture it, especially if you're like hiking, the videos and the photos never do it justice. And it's probably because, you can't capture how grand it is, how big it is. This you can because, drone shot further away, but even that slight movement of revealing everything behind it, you're like, whoa, you get that feeling.
She keeps track of the weather and helps me make decisions. She reminds me to let someone know where I'm going and when I'll be back. And honestly, I wouldn't feel safe out there if she wasn't with me. But then once I've had my adventure and I make it home safe and sound,
The shot was good because there was two movements. The one that's moving forward and then the other one that's tilting down. In a lot of shots where people use drone shots, a lot of people only use one movement. It's either going forward or it's going side to side. But using these two movements to show how steep it is creates this whole other element to it.
She stays with me. And this is where she can kind of get
I feel like the lighting is perfect. I feel like it's like lighting from the heavens. How bright it is on him right here. But then like you start to look at everything around, like there's no light here. I think that's why it really, really stands out. I don't know how he did it. The color grading of the whole thing is amazing. But this, I feel like maybe he lifted the highlights up a bit. You're just super focused on him. It just, he like stands out.
where she can kind of get on my nerves. When I'm trying to be at peace, she'll remind me of all the things that could happen, all the ways it could fall apart.
The slight moving in and out of the sun rays is just a beautiful touch. Like, come on. Having it composed where you could see the grass and all this stuff in the foreground, this looks so good.
Up here, and I have never done it before, but I hear it's a little testy.
This is so interesting. The angle almost feels like the camera's like this. Maybe he zoomed it in and tilted it, but keeping the focus on the rocks, or the textures, and then having them in the background, different shot.
Definitely certain sections on the ascent where you really had to get that part right.
Nice, dude.
And luckily for the first half, we did.
These two shots work so well together, and I feel like it's because if he started with this shot or only had this shot, you can't really understand how high it is and how steep it is, what they're climbing. Because everything kind of blends in together. Like it's really hard to tell that this is lower. But because he set it up where you see it first, and he actually got this shot, this you could really tell, especially because the contrast of the sky with the rocks, the textures. This is smooth. Like there's just so many different things about it. Whereas this next shot, still a good shot, but it's really hard to tell the difference.
After what felt like a long time, we made it to the top.
Wow, that is spectacular.
Composition of that works so well. He says we made it to the top, and then angling it where they are at the highest point of the whole thing, because this is the other side. Think about it. If he had it where this point was a little higher, wouldn't have the same effect. So getting that shot where he's lower, composing it to make sure that they are the highest point and elevated works well with the script. Composition looks great.
And me and the boys, we were ready for it. But before I show you the part of the journey that Fear showed up for, I want to tell you about another part of my life that she's very significant in. I've been on the verge of giving up every instrument I've ever tried, basically every time I try an instrument.
What's cool about this is there's like two storylines going on, or two ideas of the same thing, of fear. One being, the first storyline of them conquering this mountain, and then this where he has the instruments. Because he initially showed this shot in the very beginning, remember he walked into the house and he had all these instruments. Now he's like connecting the two. So he has one storyline going and then plotting different parts, which is great storytelling. Now, like you're interested, and then you remember, you're like, oh yeah, I remember he had this in the beginning. I never even questioned it. I was just like, I was in the video. So it's cool to see how he's connecting all these things.
For that reason, I've been particularly inspired by this artist that didn't care about his singing voice and was not afraid to get his work out there. Time and time again, when I need encouragement and motivation, I find myself listening to the music of Daniel Johnston.
When I got to Austin and I was working in the
What a cool way to show photos. He laid it on top of what looks like drone footage of the mountain, but also having these photos come in, you hear that shutter, and it's like layered, right? And then he even has a video layered on top.
McDonald's, I used to hand out lots.
Because sometimes people would probably just show the photos static, but adding these like layers really gives it this nice depth to it.
There's no return.
Yeah.
See, even though in his lifetime Daniel Johnston suffered from conditions such as bipolar disorder and schizophrenia, it didn't stop him from singing.
I don't know if this was a creative decision. He just talked about bipolar disorder, and this is, I think, the first shot I've seen where there's like snow. It's very cold. It's very different from the initial hike and the shots that you see there. So it'd be cool if this is a creative decision, because that makes so much sense. Cool little things like that. Put videos together.
I think it's important for me to repeat the fact that fear is my friend.
True love will find you in.
What a nice way that he used the guitar playing and his singing, and then meshing it together with shots of the hike, the other fear that they're conquering. So well put together.
I've actually started to notice that the more time I spend with fear, the better our relationship becomes. I help her keep things a little more lighthearted, and in
I
return,
love
she
this
shows me
shot.
some of the most.
I think because we think of fear, that's probably the scariest feeling. It's hard to really capture it when you're watching the videos, but doing a POV shot of the feet and when you're like at the spine, if you guys ever watch those videos of like mountain bikers or people trekking through these, that's always the scariest shots because you actually feel like you're there. So I love how we didn't get to see any POV shots like this. I don't think we did before, but showing it at the end and conquering it, what a way to end it off. Make sure you guys actually watch this video if you guys didn't watch it already, because there's just so many good things. And actually, all his videos, like the ones that came out the last couple months, have just been amazing. So if you guys did enjoy this breakdown, please like and subscribe. Also, subscribe to the newsletter. Cinematic newsletter comes out every Wednesday. I'll see you guys on the next one. Take it easy. Peace.